Okay, we're going to call the PZA, Planning, Zoning, and Agriculture Committee meeting to order for Wednesday, August 19th, 2:20, 9 a.m. Can we get a roll call, please? Sorry.
Mr. Featherling?
Here.
Mr. Miller?
Here.
Mr. Tholen? Ms. Polk?
Here.
Mr. Payton?
Here.
Ms. Peters?
Present.
Ms. Dunbar?
Present.
Mr. Kinzinger?
Present.
Mr. Fairfield?
Present.
Mr. Smith?
Present.
Mr. Sponson?
Present.
Mr. Dennell?
Present.
Mr. Long?
Present.
Mr. Wheeler?
Present.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. We have no public comment that I'm aware of. I haven't been notified of any. Anybody have anything? No? Okay, we'll move on to approval minutes for July 22nd, 2:20. Okay. Motion by Mr.
Miller.
Long and seconded by Ms. Polk? Okay.
Yes.
We have to roll call that? Okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Featherling?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Mr. Tholen? Ms. Polk?
Aye.
Mr. Payton?
Aye.
Ms. Peters?
Aye.
Ms. Dunbar?
Aye.
Mr. Kinzinger?
Aye.
Mr. Fairfield?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
Mr. Sponson?
Aye.
Mr. Dennell?
Aye.
Mr. Long?
Aye.
Mr. Wheeler? Motion carries.
Okay, next up will be the building report, but I'm going to ask that we get a motion here to do the building report, the service agreement between Kankakee County and the Sun River Terrace for electrical inspections, service agreement between the county of Kankakee and the village of Aroma Park for electrical inspection. Can we get that all condensed into one?
Second. Polk.
Polk, who's first? Peyton, okay. Get a roll call, please.
No, sorry, I have questions.
Yes.
Sorry. My question is are the service agreements exactly the same? Otherwise, they have to be voted on separately.
Okay.
So my question is for Dell, are these service agreements for the same amount of money and exactly the same?
The only difference is one says Aroma Park and the other one says Sun River Terrace.
See why I'm asking.
Okay,
If it's a different dollar amount, then we need to be considered.
Same
separate.
dollar amount, same agreement.
Okay.
that
I'm
was
just
my
trying to
question.
say some roll
Oh, I
calls
gotcha.
here. Okay. Okay, we get a roll call vote, please, Kelly?
Mr. Featherling?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Ms. Polk?
Aye.
Mr. Payton?
Aye.
Ms. Peters?
Aye.
Ms. Dunbar?
Aye.
Mr. Kinzinger?
Aye.
Mr. Fairfield?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
Mr. Sponson?
Aye.
Mr. Dennell?
Aye.
Mr. Long?
Aye.
Mr. Wheeler?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Chairman?
Yes,
If I could, sir?
sure.
I just want to mention that, sorry.
Just turn it off.
I know it's tough.
Yeah.
I just want to mention that the county, the service agreements are to do the electrical inspections for these smaller communities, so they don't have to have a full-time person there. The cost is better for them. And that we're open to working with these other smaller communities in the county.
Okay.
We want to be able to take advantage of scale. So just want to mention that this is the way that we try to work with everybody in the county to save them money, but also to spread that the cost that we have amongst a lot of different places.
Okay.
So just want to mention that.
Thank you. Anybody else have anything? Let's start with the building report with Delbert. All set? Ready to go?
Ready? Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Your monthly building report for July 2020 is in your packet. Some highlights here. We had 2 new houses. Issued 7 commercial permits. Total permits was 101, and we brought in revenue of $64,956. And that is up from the same month last year where we only brought in $24,351. So it's a pretty dramatic increase even with the pandemic going on.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, anybody have any questions about the building report? None? Okay, we'll go next to the service agreement between Kankakee County and Village of Sun River Terrace for electrical inspections. Delbert?
All right. Both of these are, like I said, are identical other than the name, so we can talk about both if that's all right.
Okay, so he doesn't have to read them?
You know, it's already been voted on. But Basically, for the villages, we will perform
Okay.
their electrical inspections for $50
Backwards.
straight fee per inspection. We will bill each municipality every 3 months for any inspections we did for the previous 3 months. You do have a copy of each agreement in your packet. It's
Yes.
pretty boilerplate. The state's attorney has reviewed it and has accepted it, so. We're only anticipating about, right now, probably maybe 10 or 15 inspections per municipality per year.
Okay, that'd be nice. Thank you. Okay, next up we have transportation. That'd be Ben. Is that
Yes.
Ben? You handling that?
He's not at his desk. Hang on just a second.
Hold on.
Oh, there he
I saw him a minute ago. There he is, Ben. Transportation.
I'm running around. I was just confirming something for you. So we have in front of us the Transportation Planning Grant Agreement. So this is our standard MPO agreement for, which actually would be July 1st of this year through December 31st of 2021. So it's a 15-month, I guess a little more than that, 18-month calendar. It's about a $325,000 project. This is broke down between Federal Highway Administration funds and what we define as a 20% local match. What's very nice for us in previous years and like in this year, IDOT has funded our 20% local match. So this is a no cost to the county endeavor. It allows us to fund the MPO, manage our MPO activities, which are required by Federal Highway, update all of our planning activities, which are the Unified Work Program, all of our TIP amendments that allow us to do funds. Just for the edification of the board, interestingly enough, any federal dollars that get spent through Kankakee County, whether they're IDOT projects or something we're doing locally, our MPO manages those funds. So we, through our policy committee board, authorize the expenditures. So this is up through and including improvements on I-57 that have very little to do with us as a jurisdiction, as a county, but we're, as an MPO, we're the pass-through conduit when federal funds are spent in the state. So we would maintain those projects on behalf of either the local jurisdictions, whether it be county or city or village, and then including IDOT. So this allows us to staff that and put the annual program together so we can utilize those federal funds in Kankakee County.
Okay.
Thank you,
Kinzinger.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Hey, Ben, what's the acronym MPO?
So the MPO is the Metropolitan Planning Organization, and we have a MPA, which is our planning area. So we have a Metropolitan Planning Area managed by the Metropolitan Planning Organization. So this is made up of Federal Highway Administration, IDOT staff, the local transit provider, Metro has a seat, the airport has a seat, then the county, villages of Manteno, Bourbonnais, Bradley, City of Kankakee, Village of Aroma Park, and actually a portion of our MPA makes up a portion of Sun River Terrace. So we focus on projects that fall within that boundary.
So do you represent the county on the MPO and the MPA? Are you on that board on both of those?
No, so Chairman Wheeler is our policy committee member, and then Mark Rogers is our technical advisory committee member. We do, so Dell and Jeff and Michael and myself and portions of Michelle's salary, we staff it. So we prepare the documents for the meeting, we get the notices out, we update the plans, and then we present all of those documents to the technical advisory committee who reviews it for technical specification, and then the policy committee either approves or denies based on that. So they are the body that approves the overall expenditures, how we utilize our funds. But as the acting fiscal agent at the county level, we both manage the grant and allow the staff to be put towards the grant.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Okay. Mr. Wheeler?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ben, could you explain the advantage of having the MPO and how we pool money to get projects done?
So yeah, so certainly, and there's a good example here in formerly Mantino was not part of the MPO, and they received their own individual stipend. So we're collecting funds for the MPO, and we're allowed to pool our funds together to do projects. And we're finding more and more every project we do is really it's like $5 million or $10 million is a starting point. And so we're, as an MPO, allowed to collect funds on behalf of the metropolitan area. So we're a single county MSA, so Metropolitan Statistical Area in Kankakee County. So we're eligible to collect and combine those funds. This allows us to go far further on the projects and also on the long-range planning, where we, as an organization, with our members, can decide what the priority projects for the region are, and then pool those funds in funding it. If an individual jurisdiction were to try and put together what they would receive in motor fuel dollars to do a $6 or $8 million project, they could literally be decades before they could fund the project. We're allowed to pool those funds together, look at our entire area and identify the priority areas, 50 in Armor, work on certain areas that are congested, whether it be 102 and 4552, amendments to Route 45. We would look at all of those, new improvements at 9,000, and we put those together and to kind of go a little further in the performance-based standard at the staff level. We look at all of our projects. So there are about 60 or 65 MPO projects. We define which ones are fiscally constrained, and then from the fiscally constrained projects, we rank them on a performance-based system so we can share with the MPO Advisory Committee and Technical Advisory Committee and MPO Policy Committee to say, here are the projects that are, have the biggest safety impact. Here are the projects that have the biggest return on damaged roads that are really in bad shape to the improved roads. And then the policy committee can make decisions about what to fund. So it allows us, I would say on average, to fund a project every 5 to 6 years if we're talking about $5 or $6 million projects, potentially a little longer if the projects are bigger, and then having the chairman on that board and able to voice, here's kind of the regional impact. Each one of the members are aware of what the highest regional impact is, so we can pool all our funds together and get those projects done.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Hunter?
Yes, thank you for letting me pose a question to Ben. I know the chairman mentioned to me regarding the Hobby Avenue project. Where does that sit at this particular point? Could you give me an update?
So Hobby Avenue is currently finishing phase 2 engineering. So they're finalizing. So in the process, it depends on how you're looking at a project from a federal scale, but let's call it 3 phases of engineering. So we've got preliminary phase 1 engineering, so PE1, and that would be preliminary line work, storm work, elevation work to kind of define the project. Then they go into phase 2, which is what IDOT defines as specifications, plans, and expenses. So they do SPE, and that would be where you would put together the exact project, how deep the road is, what the cross grade is, what the overall cost of the project would be. And then you would go into letting construction, and through that you would have a construction phase and then a construction engineering, or CE, where you would have, it's phase 3 of engineering that would be maintaining quantities, checking for slump rate for the aggregate that's being installed, compression testing on asphalt if you're using it. They monitor the project through the finalization construction. So where Hobby is right now is they're on phase 2 construction. So they're putting together the cost estimates, the final project design, that they can then use that information to move into letting.
Okay.
Thank you.
From your learned perspective, and I assume that the MPO has to vote on that and prioritize that, what kind of timetable you think we're looking at in terms of down the road?
So it really depends as to when phase 2 can get finally designed and then approved by IDOT. Then they can move into what we would, the phase 3 portion of it, which would be the construction. I would say probably 2022. I know we've got Jeff on the call. that we're probably 2022, I would say, is a year we could be looking towards construction.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay,
I did
Yes.
want to, can I provide clarity on something on this?
Sure.
The MPO funded their match, if you will, I believe it's 80-20, Ben?
It is 80-20.
Yeah, 80% came from the MPO for the engineering. There is no commitment from the MPO to fund the project, though.
construction.
There is no dollars that have been dedicated towards that project. It was just they asked for help with the engineering.
Okay.
So I want to draw that distinction because there's a 10-year limit. If the project is not funded and paid for 10 years, then the city of Kankakee would have to pay back all of that amount of money to have
They're
the
on the
project
hook for
done.
that.
They're on the
I don't
hook
think
for it. Yeah, so I wanted to clarify that there's two different parts of this. There's engineering, which the city asked for help with.
Yes.
And so we said, well, yeah, but there's no guarantee that this is gonna be, because if you listen to Ben before, and this project is like $7-8 million for the whole thing, it would take all the MPO's money for 15 years, roughly. I mean, that's not what the MPO is
feasible.
about. So it's the Kankakee would have to step up and pay a larger part of that project.
Okay.
I just want to clarify that because it was kind of a half answer, if you will. It was legit. He wasn't evading anything, but I'm just saying there's the other side of it is that project is not funded by the MPO.
Right, final dollars. Okay, that's all.
Mr. Chairman, I think you kind of clarified that before when we had a discussion. So, the fiscal implications of that are astronomical for the city of Kankakee. So I understand in terms of them being on the hook and so forth, not being able to pay that back within 10 years, they're going to be on the hook for that. So thank you.
Okay, thanks. Okay, Mr. Kinzinger?
Yeah, just because I'm relatively new on this whole process. The MPO, is that something that's been going on in the county for years and years, or is it something that's been developed over the last 2 or 3 years?
I think we initiated in 78, was our first year, Dell.
That would be, I believe, right, yes.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Okay, Mr. Long, do you have anything? No, you're looking at me. Any questions? Okay. Anybody else have any questions about transportation planning grant? If not, we'll move to the rural transit update. I see Jeff, are you up there?
I'll cover rural transit update.
Can we do them together?
So we were talking about this at the staff level, and I kind of want to open with at the bottom of our rural transit notes for the quarter. We always
Ben, hold
leave
on
in-
one second for a second, Ben, sorry.
Okay.
I was gonna vote on them together, but that's okay.
Okay, I didn't.
Yeah, it's just reports. Yeah. You want to go ahead and do it? Get a motion to approve a transportation planning grant agreement with IDOT 2021 projects. Get a second, first Mr. Long, second by Mr. Kinzinger. Get a roll call vote, please.
Mr. Featherling?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Ms. Polk? I'll come back to her. Mr. Payton?
Aye.
Ms. Peters?
Aye.
Ms. Dunbar?
Aye.
Mr. Kinzinger?
Aye.
Mr. Fairfield?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Mr. Smith?
Mr. Swanson?
Aye.
Mr. Dunnell?
Aye.
Mr. Long?
Aye.
Mr. Wheeler? Ms. Polk? Mr. Smith?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Okay, next up will be the rural transit update. You get a motion and a second to approve. Okay.
I'm sorry, what are we approving?
Well, that's the way you pointed at. You wanted me to do it. I was gonna do transportation all in one. Well, I wasn't arguing with anybody. I was just saying, you do transportation together. Both projects could have been together, so, but that's okay. Okay, so next we have the rural transit update. I saw, okay, Ben, you handling that one? Are you handling a rural transit update, Ben?
I can handle a rural transit update. So we kind of have three parts to the rural transit update. We've got a Q4, a year end, and then I'm going to call it shameless self-promotion, commercial for the transit system. Q4, we did about 5,500 trips. And keep in mind, when we talk about Q4, this is pandemic Q4. So trips are down. There are about 800 demand response rides. These are down about 78% in comparison to Q3. So I mean, we're really, and also when we talk about Q4, we talk about the end of the year, which gets us through June. So this is the heart of social distancing, lockdown, and isolation. At about 4,700 commuter routes was only down 27%. So that's kind of reflective of people still need to get to work. So they're still riding the commuter trip. But overall, the total ride we were down 53% Q4 in comparison to Q3. So we lost quite a bit of ridership. So we had an operating expense of about $173,000 and collected $410 or $440 in fares. Keep in mind, we've suspended a lot of our fare collection due to just kind of reduction of driver contact and trying to make sure we're at the right place. Total year rides, we had 37,600-ish rides. And what's kind of cool is that it's a nominally decreased for the first 3 Qs for the year. But again, ridership was down 18% year over in that last quarter. So sorry, for the full year, we were down 18%. So we're down significantly more in Q4, but I would say we were on parallel for the year prior to the breakdown. So that's kind of the quarter and then the year. Well, on the commercial side of this, I just want everybody to be aware that's listening or potentially watching or however. Dial-A-Ride service runs Monday through Friday. You can contact a show bus. It's a $4 fare. They'll take you anywhere you need to go. If you want to go from the rural areas of the county into the urban areas of the county, that is perfectly acceptable for your shopping or doctor's appointments or anything really. You can ride the bus for however you want. And then the deviated, we're calling deviated fixed route. It's $1 each way. It starts at 4 a.m. in Kankakee and runs through 5 p.m. between Moments and the city of Kankakee. So if you need a ride to work in Moments and what we're calling our Eastern Job Hub for $2 a day, you can get a ride to Moments on the bus starting at 5 or 4 a.m. going to 5 p.m.
Okay.
That concludes my report.
Okay. We had a motion and a second, I believe. Did we, Kelly? Yeah, okay, we don't have to vote on that then, okay. Okay, we'll move on to planning. Delbert, we had a few questions about the Census Partnership Agreement. Can you run that down for us?
Sure. I was given this by Chairman Wheeler last week. We've been contacted by the Census Bureau, see if we are interested in being an official partner of theirs for the 2020 census. What would initiate that partnership is the form that you have in your packet, where we would indicate which portions of that list that we would like to perform or be their partners with. We already pre-checked many of the boxes on the form, ones that we thought that we were capable of doing or providing. So this would basically allow us to be their partner. We would share their information on our social media and web pages. We would allow them to share our information on their advertisements and web pages. We would provide meeting space for training and things of that nature if needed. So what we're asking for today is to give Chairman Wheeler permission to sign this agreement.
Okay. Real quick, Mr. Wheeler?
I did want to explain a couple things before there's a motion. The cost is very, very minimal if there is a cost. There's 3 places in the county that are a problem right now as far as the census goes. They're a real problem. Pembroke Township, City of Kankakee, and Essex. And I've already talked to Senator Joyce about Essex, and he might know a guy up there. So okay. He's going to work in that area to try to get them up, okay. Their numbers up. But the reason I thought this was important for us is because of rural transit. We engage a lot of people in the Pembroke Township via show bus, and what we just got through talking about on the ride. So if there is a cost, I would say maybe like a not to exceed $1,000 or something. If we want to put some logos on the buses, as people see it going by, come up with something that says make sure you join the census. It matters for you or this community, something.
Yeah.
And then we put pamphlets inside of the bus to let people know how they could do it.
Okay.
Does that make sense? I just want to explain it up front. It's minimal, but it's in the county's best interest financially to get Hopkins Park on the census.
It's best for us to get as many people counted as we can and make it as easy as possible. So, Mr. Kinzinger.
I would like to make the motion that we approve this. Instead of limiting it to $1,000, I'd like to make it at least $2,500. The county has demonstrated the ability to spend money wisely, and this is a very important thing to do. So that would be my motion. We approve this, not to exceed $2,500.
And if we do the 2,500, then it won't have to come back for anything.
Peyton
Right.
second.
Peyton seconds.
Peyton seconds, okay. We need a roll call vote on that one?
Mr. Featherling?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Ms. Polk? Mr. Payton?
Aye.
Ms. Peters?
Aye.
Ms. Dunbar?
Aye.
Mr. Kinzinger?
Aye.
Mr. Fairfield?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
Mr. Swanson?
Aye.
Mr. Dunnell?
Aye.
Mr. Long?
Aye.
Mr. Wheeler?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay. We have a project update for the planning department up next. Can we get Delber's gonna probably do that, right, Del?
Yes, I am. I was discussing various projects that the planning department's been working on with Chairman Wheeler, and he thought it would be a good idea if I also updated the PZA committee on what we've been doing lately. So got them in a little bit of an order. Under planning, we have we recently just applied for a hazard mitigation planning grant that'll allow us to update the risk factors for the county and our municipalities as part of our hazard mitigation plan. We've applied to IDNR for this grant. It's a 75-25 grant. Total project cost is $35,000 and local share is $8,800, which will be in-kind services, so it will not cost the county any money. The Laurel Road floodplain buyouts. We are very close to purchasing the first home and demolishing it. That should be coming up probably in the next month and a half. We have 3 properties there. Out of the 5, there's 2 of them that we are not going to be able to buy because they've been recently purchased by new owners who are, as of right now, not interested in selling. But the other 3 that are very dilapidated properties have been sitting vacant for at least 2 years, one of them probably closer to 10. We will be purchasing those, tearing them down, and the county at the end will own them. So, but we have to do them one at a time because we have a, excuse me, we have a limit of, I can't risk more than $250,000 at a time. So we'll be doing them one at a time.
Okay. Let's do that.
Last year, excuse me, did you have a question?
No.
Oh, okay. And it may be best if it's okay with the chairman just to ask questions on each item if there are any.
Okay.
My question is, Del, could you please explain that this isn't our money? This is grant reimbursement? Because we didn't cover that here, and I don't want people to think we're out buying houses.
Yeah, we are not out buying houses. This is through a grant from Illinois Department of Natural Resources. It's a state grant, and it is 100% reimbursed, but we have to, but it is reimbursement, so we have to put the money up first.
And that's why we're doing them one at a time, to make sure we get our money and then do the next
Okay,
one.
you don't have to wait for all of them.
Exactly.
3 and then we don't get our money, which has happened with other things.
Right.
It's too much to risk.
Okay.
So
And the state has said they will not reimburse us until the project is done. So we actually have to buy the house, tear it down, and reseed the site. Then we can get reimbursed, and then we can move on to the next one. So,
I believe we covered that pretty good in a meeting not too long ago here. Yeah.
right. Speaking of floodplain buyouts, last year we purchased the Dahl property over on River Lane in Aroma Township, and that house has been torn down. The county now owns the property, and I guess we need to try to figure out what we're going to do with it. We have talked about leasing it to adjoining property owners or to the neighborhood for their for their use and enjoyment. And we're still intending to do that, but we've been stalled because of the pandemic. We can't get everybody together to discuss it. So as soon as we have that opportunity, we will be having those discussions. I know there's at least a couple of adjoining property owners that are interested in it. Electronic waste recycling. Now, if you remember back in March, County Board voted to opt into the SARA program. And we have until January 1st to put the program together. We are still working on that. Ben and I actually have a few ideas that we are discussing with some local industries that might actually reduce the cost of that. We're still not there yet. It's about to wait and see. If not, the program will likely be something similar to what we're currently doing. And we'll have to talk to some municipalities about hosting the sites. On September 26th from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. at Kankakee Community College, our department will be hosting a household hazardous waste event. So all of our citizens can bring any household hazardous waste that they have to that site at that day and time, and they will be put into bins for recycling.
Okay.
And that is subject to change right now. We will get advertisements out as soon as it's locked down. We're waiting on final approval from the state for that event.
Okay. Okay.
Historic Preservation Commission is just about complete with their Moments Township Historic Preservation Survey. It's on track to be completed by the end of September, so that is going well. They were granted a 3-month extension, but it doesn't look like they're going to need it. Under building and zoning, building permit software. That is progressing well. We have a tentative go-live date of October 13th for that software. The code enforcement portion is basically complete at this time and is in the validation process. The public access portal is being worked on right now. In fact, we are working with the developers about language for privacy statements, refund policies, and all of that type of information to be put on there. And the building permit portion is probably about 50% complete. The final portion will be the contractor registration. So that is going along well. We have a Zoom meeting with them once a week to discuss the project, and they give us updates, and we are involved with that. Community solar gardens. If you recall, the state approved 7 of the 41 community solar gardens that we issued special use permits for. Out of those, one of them will not be built. It wasn't feasible when they went for their interconnect agreement. But that left us with 6. We have issued building permits for 5 of them, with only 1 left to go, which will probably be issued next month.
Okay, we have a couple of questions for you, though. Hold on.
Okay, go ahead.
Mr. Wheeler.
Which solar farm did not go?
I forget the name of it. It was the one on Illinois Route 114 in Moments Township.
So, did the Ben?
The property owners were Dorn.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Del, I had a quick one here. Do we get to get another one, pick a different one to have, or do we lose it completely?
I do not know that.
Is that something we have to apply
for? Lottery, and they issued them all. There was some talk about if they, whatever company got it, that they could transfer to a different project. As far as I know, that didn't occur. So it's really in the state's hands as to whether where that project might end up.
Seems like they went through a lot just to drop it on the floor and say forget it. So it's worth something to somebody, I would think. So okay.
All right.
Anybody else have any questions for Del on the first couple? Because he's moving on pretty fast here. So.
Oh.
Okay. Anybody?
You want to see one that's going along pretty well? The Yankee Solar Farm down on Route 45, south of Kankakee.
Right.
Panels are up. You can actually see what it's going to look like.
Yeah. So. Okay. Thanks.
All right. Utility grade solar farms. If you recall, we approved a special use permit for the Staley Solar Farm in Rockville Township, which was a 70 megawatt, 400 plus or minus acre solar farm. That has recently been sold to Sunpin Solar. They contacted us a couple of weeks ago. They acquired the project, and they're anticipating construction next spring. on that one. Another utility grade solar farm is being proposed by Pattern Development out in the Essex area. To date, they have not applied for their special use permit, so that project is just still waiting.
Put on hold.
And so I think they're moving forward. They have said something about applying for their special use permit in winter of this year, somewhere around December or January.
Okay. So that's it. One more?
Our two, well, I've got a few more here.
Okay.
The two wind farms, Grant Park Wind Farm and the Pattern Development Wind Farm, which is also in the same area as their proposed solar development. There has been no movement on either of those, just so you know, they have not applied for any permits or anything at this time. GIS department. County has purchased new aerial photography, and that is in the can. We're currently undergoing quality control. We've partnered with our transportation staff, thank you, Ben, and the assessment office's staff to review all of the different tiles before we sign off on them to make sure that they are they're not skewed or blurred in any way. There's 43,000 tiles for them to look at. We still are expecting a final delivery date of late September for that. So once we have those, then Daniel will go to work to get it onto our online system, and it'll be available to everyone after that point. GIS is also undergoing a system renovation. We are upgrading our server platform to allow for us to transfer to the new portal software that ESRI is moving towards. And this part of this renovation will be eliminating some antiquated servers. It'll remove the need for some of our remote servers that we're paying a monthly fee for. So there's probably a $5,000 or $6,000 a year savings by doing this renovation. And it'll help streamline the system and allow us to better serve the constituents. Also, a little more news. Daniel is currently being trained by the state as a system specialist for the Next Gen 911, so that the information from the GIS that's being ported into the NG 911 is in the proper formats. He's actually doing that today. And then we have transportation economic development. I've got Greenways and Trails Plan and Pembroke Hopkins Park Natural Gas Pipeline, but I'm going to turn that over to Ben because he's kind of the lead on those projects.
Yeah.
Thanks, Del. And actually, I want to bring Jeff in, and I think that doing the MPO planning agreement here today is a neat opportunity. We've worked on a project recently with the Illinois State Police, and I want to, obviously we'll take questions on Greenways and Trails, which we're kicking off tomorrow with RPC. It's a standard plan update. It'll probably be about 15 months. And then, any questions anybody has about Hopkins Park, I'm always available, so is the chairman, to cover those. But I wanted really, Jeff, to talk a little bit about some of the projects the MPO works on that aren't necessarily defined in our UWP, and they're not required, but they're opportunities for us to kind of further some of our goals and make roadways a little safer. So, Jeff, if you want to jump in and talk a little bit about the work you've been doing with Illinois State Police.
Sure, thank you. Yeah, so as Ben had mentioned, he mentioned the Greenways and Trails Plan, so that's one thing that we're working on. But what I was going to mention was that one of the requirements that we have to do is the federal highways, we have certain performance measures that are laid out in the highway bill, and one of those is for transportation safety. So we are in the process of working on a highway safety plan update. And in 2013, the CATS Policy Committee established a CATS Transportation Safety Committee, and we've got several members in the area that participate regularly. And in late July, ahead of school returning to session, we received a request from Illinois State Police for a summary of crashes by time of day for the month of August. So our goal was to provide information that could assist in identifying which times of day were associated with an increased number of crashes, so that ISP would have a little more information in determining when they might want to increase traffic enforcement. So we were able to provide the information. We were able to provide an initial report actually the same day that they had made the request. And then after we would send that off, we talked with their staff a little more, and we were able to provide an additional detailed report within 2 business days following that follow-up. So we were real happy with that turnaround time that we were able to provide. So hopefully, you know, we hope that the information we were able to provide was useful to them in increasing traffic enforcement and hopefully reducing crashes and all that. So that's one of the ways that we're able to coordinate with our committees and address some of the performance measures that we're required to look into and address with federal regulation.
Thanks, Jeff. And for the committee, this is just, you know, it's one of our mandates. We have an overarching mandate as it relates to safety under the FAST Act. But, you know, if we can help our, you know, neighboring agencies offer, you know, better enforcement or say more safety protocols based on empirical data. I mean, these reports we're crunching through, and you know, kind of just so the committee's aware. I mean, we're talking about you know, thousands of you know, reports, police report data that we're trying to crunch through from 2017 to 2019 that we can share with them in a usable tool, and you know, with the parameters that we were working with Illinois State Police, we were able to, in a very short time frame, turn it around to them. And we're hopeful that now their enforcement will be a little more informed. They'll be able to look at targeted areas where there have been maybe more crashes that people don't necessarily think about, because overall the reduction of Ks, fatalities, and A classification accidents is our priority with our safety.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, Ben, could you go over real quick, tell people what Ks stand for?
Yeah, so K accidents are fatalities. So we have motorist fatality within the act. Well, I guess it shouldn't be, not necessarily just motorist fatality, but somebody involved in the accident there's a fatality as a result of it. Yeah. And so that's kind of, that is the paramount reduction. We don't want any fatalities on the roadways, but you know, again, we try and reduce those levels of accidents where we have more minor accidents or lower speed accidents. We understand we're going to have those. But we want to make sure we're as safe as we can as it relates to.
Because you threw Ks out there, a lot of people might not know what you're talking about.
No problem.
Not a good thing. Okay. That's it then, Ben? You all set? Dell?
I am, thank you.
How about you,
Yes,
Dell?
that's all we have.
Okay, Jeff, that's it? Okay. We don't need to vote on updates on there. Do we have any old business? Not anywhere I'm aware of. Under new business, we have one opening on a zoning board of appeals keeps coming up. Andy, is that still valid? I didn't think that was.
I thought that was filled. I left it on there when I saw this on Friday, but
Yeah.
Well, it's a technicality. It's a member who hasn't renewed their membership yet.
I see.
They are in the process of it, but we still have to post it as an opening.
I see.
Okay.
Tell the
Thank you.
county board.
Yeah, I just was wondering why it keeps coming up, and I thought we had it taken care of. Okay. And then we have two openings on the Historical Preservation Commission, and then we have 3 openings on the Kankakee County Regional Planning Commission. Del, do those have to be anybody, or can they be board members, or how's that work for that one?
Could be anybody but a board member.
Okay, thank you. Other than that, we'll move on to a motion to adjourn. Mr. Kensinger? Oh, sure, Andy, Mr. Wheeler?
Thank you. Dell, Martine Hinton, retired, if you will, as head of the Historic Preservation Commission. I would like to make a recommendation that we somehow honor her for her years of service. She basically was the driving force behind this, and I would like to send something to, while we can't vote on it, is it okay with this committee that I send something to executive as some type of a resolution to honor those years of service? Because she really did pull that organization up by the bootstraps. Yeah. And Del, I don't know if you agree, but you've been there and you've seen it, and
I think that would be appropriate. In fact, I don't think the Historic Preservation Commission would be where it is today if it wasn't for her.
Yeah.
So we'll put it on the executive, and we'll come up with a resolution if that's okay with this committee.
So then you get something at the board meeting, then the next board meeting?
Get her to the full board meeting, hopefully, to accept something from the county. So.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Wheeler. No barring anything else, can we get a motion to adjourn? Mr. Kensinger, get a second by Mr. Long. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion carries. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Have a good day, everybody.